Get full episodes of The Damage Report as a podcast on iTunes and Android, and you can watch the live show every weekday on YouTube TV. Rebel HQ's Emma Vigeland joins us now to break down these elections. Emma, welcome to the show.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you here. Good to hear your voice. So, look, we're very excited to find out your perception of what happened in the election. Now, our viewers should understand that you were violently ill during it. I was metaphorically ill, thanks to some of the results. You had a more visceral reaction. So I want to start off. I saw on Twitter that you were doing your sort of postmortem, and you said that Gilham's loss in Florida was the worst loss of the night. Why is that?
Yeah, besides like the interior of my stomach, which experienced a significant loss as I went through flu season. Gilham's loss was the hardest for me to stomach because I think that Florida, we have to do away with the fiction that it is a purple toss-up state at this point. It is completely trending red. I saw this when I went to Trump rallies. And you can really now see it in the election results. They didn't just elect a moderate Republican like the Northeast so enjoys doing. They elected someone who completely aligned himself with Trump and made it very clear from day one that he is a down-the-line racist who's going to call someone a monkey, basically, your opponent, on the first day that you're opposing that individual. So that was incredibly disheartening. And now DeSantis is going to redistrict Florida in a way that it may be impossible for Democrats to get any ground there going forward, including in the presidential election.
So it looks like Florida could use one of those ballot measures that sets up an independent redistricting commission, it sounds like. So I want to ask you, in terms of the results, so Gillum ended up losing very close, and it looks like there could possibly be a recount, but he did lose, it looks like, after the polls had him up by a few points. Obviously, this was one of the races that had the most clear, persistent racist campaigning, other than maybe Duncan Hunter's race in California's 50th district. How important do you think in the final result was that sort of racist messaging from DeSantis and Donald Trump?
Very important. I think we're seeing it all over. There was a polling shift, unfortunately, once the caravan messaging started getting more frequent and was being persistently pushed out by the Republicans. As we've said here at TYT, Republicans run to their base and they appeal to them, and the Democrats run from their base. And the Republicans appeal to their base in the worst, most cynical possible way with this caravan messaging. I think Eric Filer, who covered the Ojeda race in my stead, since I was not feeling well, he pointed out that once the caravan messaging started, the polls really got away from Ojeda in his race against Carol Miller as well. Yeah. So I think we saw that in many places, not just in Florida.
So I did notice you said that there could be a potential silver lining with DeSantis, and that has to do with the environment. So what is that about?
I wouldn't even say it's a silver lining, but when I did speak to Trump supporters, I was surprised in Florida about how many of them mentioned the environment as their top concern, even Republicans at Trump rallies. And in speaking to my camera person who is from Florida, he said, that's a top concern here because a lot of people work, their work involves the water, their work involves tourism, and the red tide is causing significant problems. We're having issues because of hurricane damage, et cetera. And when I spoke to Trump supporters, they didn't buy climate change, but they really bought into DeSantis's plan to help what was going on with the environment down there. And I think that a lot of Trump supporters or Republicans in Florida were angry at Rick Scott's treatment of what was going on down there in the environment. And DeSantis made it a central campaign theme, whereas I didn't really hear Gillum talk too much about climate change, I would say. But again, this is me covering a variety of races, so I can't say specifically.
Emma, it's JR. So you saw a lot of the voters and the types of folks that are down there, and they're as you just pointed out, their level of importance that they place on the climate, the water, and everything, and environment. So between the fact that they voted for an open racist and the fact that they want something done with the environment, which one of those two things did you see them as more important? They hold tighter to a racist, or they hold tighter to like the clean water? So, once he got this guy in office, if he does the clean water thing, but then he's still a huge racist, or maybe he's a huge racist, but then he doesn't do the environment thing, will they still hold on to, because at least one of the two, the racism is still there?
Oh, I mean, I think the racist thing is the most clear motivator for Trump supporters. I think that's becoming clear. I know a lot of progressive pundits, I would include myself in this, talked a lot more about the economic anxiety in the 2016 election, but I think it's becoming clear that the most entrenched Trump supporters are really hanging to the race element. And that's something that we have to grapple with as a nation. I think more, that was just a plus for people trying to vote for DeSantis, and maybe some people around the edge really liked what he had to say, and that had to do with the economic anxiety that they're feeling in Florida, less about the climate change issue, but more about the tourism, their livelihood, et cetera. It's definitely race more than anything when it comes to Republicans in Florida.
So this is a topic we're going to come back to in multiple shows, I assume, especially as we're doing sort of a wrap up of this year over the course of the next month or so. But you have been following a lot of these races for a good deal of time. Like in the case of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, you were with her many times. So you've witnessed a lot of these candidacies. Some have ended up winning, some have ended up losing. Last night we saw great wins in some cases and sort of devastating losses in others. So as someone who's been following a lot of these races and going to the Trump rallies, how much do you think has changed? Like if you were a leftist and you're trying to get an idea of how we should interpret these midterm elections, how much progress have we actually made from 2016 in terms of running the right sorts of candidates, setting the terms of these campaigns and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, the progress has been slow. I think that most progress is slow. Yeah. It's surprising me how slow the change is happening in the face of someone like Donald Trump. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Ayanna Pressley as well are two candidates who primaried Democrats themselves, and they are specific cases in that instance. So I don't think we can really glean how this is going to work in the entire country. I mean, we saw James Thompson lost, obviously in Kansas, and Amar Kopanajar looks to have lost as well to Duncan Hunter, who's under investigation. So almost every Justice Democrat lost in a contested race yesterday. So that's something we have to grapple with, even though I still think the trend of being more populist, more progressive is the way to go. We also have to remember that these candidates who aren't running on corporate PAC money, with the exception of someone like Beto O'Rourke, they're at an inherent fundraising disadvantage every time. And that's going to take a while to catch on.
Yeah, and we should acknowledge that a lot of those Justice Democrats were running in difficult districts, including the 50th. Duncan Hunter is under indictment, but it's also an incredibly red district, of course.
Right.
Well, Emma, thank you for joining us. Hope you'll feel better in the near future, and we'll have you back on a little bit later on this year and give an idea of where we go from here, perhaps. Thank you very much for watching this clip from The Damage Report. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and ring the bell on YouTube to get notifications of our new videos. And of course, you can catch the full Damage Report live every weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on TYT Network on YouTube TV.